Yoshi cooked. Absolute cinema. What's up, friends? This is Metro, and today we're gonna go over my all-new Wraith build in the latest Deadlock Patch. In case you've been living under a rock and you don't know what went on, this has been the biggest patch we ever had for the game. The entire item system got reworked. Massive balance changes to basically every hero. Heroes scale differently. You now get spirit levels by leveling up. So the game changed drastically. And if you haven't had an overview over my items, or in general over my opinion on the new items, I made 2 videos before this one that went over all the items. Today we're gonna talk more specifically about Wraith and my new build. I call it the Spirit Shred. It is an insane build, and I know I say this a lot, but I really mean it this time. Like, Wraith is back on the menu. She's one of the best characters in the game. She has some weaknesses early, but once you get to like mid to late game, she kills everyone. She's like the highest DPS in the game, probably other than Geist right now, who's absolutely busted as well. But yeah, let's get right into it. The builds changed a lot. So if you haven't played yet, or you haven't spent enough time yet, 800 slash, well, the cheap items are now 800. Cheap. Inflation, tariffs, they're more expensive now, and you can't really spam them anymore. Because they're more expensive, they're like half the price of a 1600 now, right? Instead of being way cheaper than every other item. And also, there's less slots that we have. We only have 8 slots and 4 flex slots instead of 16 overall. So we have 4 less slots to work with, but that does not limit our builds. It actually makes them more interesting, in my opinion. You could stack one color, all of it. We could go 12 orange items, or 12 green items, which is not what we're gonna do, because it is really valuable to have at least some items of every category, because every item category has its own scaling and it has diminishing returns, which means at a certain point, usually above 10k item investment in orange, the bonuses you get start to diminish. So until you spend 9.6k on orange items, you get 52% inert weapon damage increase. But then once you go up more, look at the price. If we spend 30k, so 3 times as much, we only get another 40% increase, roughly, not even, right? So it is super valuable to have some items of every category. Though there are outliers, this build is gonna be mostly gun focused. It's a gun build, but it does mostly spirit damage, which is the interesting part about it. And it all will revolve around this item. And this is probably the most broken item in the game right now. It is insane on characters that can spam abilities fast, and Wraith is one of them. Wraith has cards. So what this item does is, it's an upgrade to Quicksilver Reload, and when you use it, you will reload your magazine. It's gonna give you bonus spirit damage, which is based on your base gun damage, okay? What that means is, every character in the game has a base level of gun. The more you level up your character, the more money you get, the higher the damage will get, right? And Wraith has insane scaling on gun damage. Like, Wraith starts off really weak in gun damage, but once the game progresses, she becomes really deadly in gun damage, which means this item scales insanely well on Wraith. This is kind of a mid to late game item, but we're still running it kind of early, because at this price, at around 16k, it should be an item worth when we buy this item. We already have most of our gun damage scaling. It's like more than 50% of our maximum damage is already achieved, and then the build only gets better from there. And so yeah, what it does is, you throw a card, you get max reload, it does bonus spirit damage on the card, and then it gives you a 30% fire rate, and it gives you base bullet damage in spirit. So every bullet you shoot while this is active will do extra spirit damage, and this scales with spirit, which means spirit is really valuable. And spirit was already really valuable on Wraith, because full auto scaled with it, right? But now we have like double full auto, basically, because what this really is another full auto. It gives you fire rate and increased damage, right? Which is literally what full auto does, minus the lifesteal. So laning, again, as I mentioned earlier, changed quite a bit, where you don't want to spam a lot of 800 items. And there's 2 ways to go about this, okay? Way number 1 is you go for monster rounds and you rush Cultist Sacrifice. And this seems really weird, right? Second item, 3.2k. So the point is, monster rounds gives you survivability in lane. You can shove the lane really quickly, because you do more damage to creeps, which means the enemy can't really harass you as much. And Wraith is very weak in lane right now, and probably her weakest part. So you really only want to survive the lane. You don't need to win the lane. Winning is a plus, obviously, but you want to survive the lane and not be insanely behind in money, and then you can scale and win the game. That's how you play Wraith right now. And Monster Rounds allows you to do that. Since Cult of Sacrifice is an upgrade to Monster Rounds, right? You only have to spend another 2.4k on it, okay? So that's how the new upgrade system works. It is a 3.2k item, but because we have Monster Rounds, it only costs 2.4. And what this item does is, once you get it in lane, it lets you consume a creep. And it gives you 150% bonus gold for that creep. But the more important part of this item is that once you consume the creep, as long as you're alive, for 180 seconds you will get 25% fire rate, 350 bonus health, and 15% ability range. So if I go up to this creep right now and eat it, he's troopers aimbotting. Bang! You saw that I got a 200 bonus from that one creep, which is really nice. But I just increased my HP from 700 to 1050. And that is insanely good in lane. It basically just gave us like 40% extra health. And we have ability reach. Apparently this is bugged right now, ability range. It's not working all the time in game. But it doesn't really matter that much for Wraith. We really want the fire rate and the bonus health. And the point is, you get this in lane, right? This is gonna allow you to farm creeps in lane way faster, push them way faster. Also gonna allow you to tower dive even better because it gives you 35% resist, right? It's an upgraded monster rounds. And if you are low, it still regens you. It gives you 4 out of combat regen, so 4 HP a second. If you don't fight, you will gain back HP very fast. The reason you want to consume a lane creep the first time you buy this is lane creeps give the most amount of money other than tier 3 creeps. So until tier 3s are up, it is super essential that you consume lane creeps. But the second time you use this, because the cooldown is so long, right? It's 260 seconds. The second time you use this, tier 3 creeps are most definitely up. And then you just remember every 240 seconds or 260, you consume a tier 3 creep, which, gives you more money. Just to keep the buff, keep the buff active, okay? You lose this buff right now if you're dead, okay? If you die, you're dead and it's really, really bad. I think it's a bug. I don't think it's intentional. If it is, this item is very risky to use. So I have a second option for you if you don't like this option, okay? And this is, we don't buy cultists or monster rounds. Instead, what we do is we rush Headshot Booster and then Headhunter. It's the same idea. Headhunter makes us live longer in lane, it gives us health and bonus damage for harass. And once you go to Headhunter, every 6 seconds you headshot the enemy hero, anyone in lane, which is really easy to do in Wraith, right? Because you shoot so fast. And you get healing, right? You gain 6% health back. You get 150 headshot damage every time you do that. If you live long enough to get to this item, you win the lane. I did this once and it was like day and night difference. Before I was like struggling, and as soon as I had Headhunter, you just shoot the head of the enemy every 6 seconds and they can't sustain. They die and you can sustain very long in lane. So this is the other option and both are super viable choices. I really personally like Cult of Sacrifice, but if you don't find success with it or if it's too risky for you, you can go the Headhunter route where you go Headshot Booster into Headhunter. And you might think, why are we rushing a 3k item in lane? As second item basically, as first item, right? It's an upgrade. Why are we doing that? And why we're not buying like extended magazine, headshot booster, extra regen? Why are we not going this route? The slots, because there's only 8 before a flex slot, fill up very fast. And these bonuses are really not worth it anymore, the 800s. Because again, for double the money, you can already get like items that give you way more value in the game, like Fleetfoot, right? And then I go extended magazine and extra charge. And that's usually all I buy for 800 items, okay? Everything else I try to avoid. If I really need to, I buy extra regen just to have it. But then we go straight into the main build. And the earlier, in this meta, the earlier your main build comes online, the earlier you buy your really big power spike items, the stronger you will feel, okay? Quicksilver Reload, even better now because it builds into Mercurial, and we already ran this for basically the last half a year, if you followed my Wraith builds. The item is still insane. It's actually got nerfed a bit, the fire rate is only 10% instead of 15. But it's insane. Quicksilver Reload on the cards, okay? And then we go opening rounds. This is actually just like a little small power spike early on. Because we invest so much into Spirit in this build, remember, our Mercurial and later down the line other items too will scale with Spirit. Opening rounds is a nice orange item that fills 2 purposes. A, we do more damage, right? We do 40% extra damage against people above 50 health, which means we can burst them down way faster. And we get Spirit Power. And this seemed like the best alternative to stuff you used to run earlier, like Mystic Shot, right? A bit unreliable in my opinion on Wraith, because if you miss that one shot on Spirit, it doesn't do a lot. So I just like this more because it's more consistent, right? And your gun is gonna scale really well on Wraith. So we're going opening rounds, and then we're going Tesla bullets. And Tesla bullets, you know, we've used it in almost every build I've ran so far. And the reason I think it works so well in this build, and the reason I think Tesla bullets are even stronger than before is, A, we have a lot of spirit in this build. We'll have a lot of spirit power, which means our Tesla damage will scale and will go up. But more importantly, because we're so limited in slots, upgrading to higher value items is really good. And later down the line, we go into Capacitor, which is a new upgrade from Tesla. And we'll talk about this item later. But yeah, Tesla. And then we go straight into Mercurial Magnum. And you might notice at this point, we don't have any bullet lifesteal, right? We don't have a lot of sustain. We have some out of combat regen with Cultist Sacrifice, or if we go Headhunter, we have some regen in the fight, right? But we are not running lifesteal, and we're mostly relying on full auto. The skill build that we're running is a bit different than usual, but it's mostly the same. We start the lane off with 2 points in card trick. Again, you don't have to follow this 1-to-1. If you go in, add this build in game, it is going to tell you exactly how to skill. I just want to explain it here because we're going 2 in cards, 2 in full auto, 1 in teleport, 1 in ult, and then we still max out full auto. And once we have maxed out full auto, which should come at the same time as Tesla, and definitely before Mercurial, by that time we get a lot of spirit and bullet lifesteal, right? And lifesteal is actually harder to get around now. You might ask, why am I not buying bullet lifesteal? Like, you know, that item I used to run all the time. It got nerfed quite hard. Lifesteal in general got nerfed. Bullet lifesteal only gives 16% on bullets, but because we're gonna do so much spirit damage per bullet with Tesla and Mercurial, which I'll show you in a second, it really is not worth it anymore. I almost thought about going spirit lifesteal, but we will have our way to heal later down the line. But right now the meta really, you don't rush healing early. And on Wraith, you want to be full HP, you make sure you proc your full auto during the fight, and you should be fine sustain wise. This should give you enough lifesteal until we get to our main healing source. But the meta right now is more so about bursting the enemy down. Defensive items, green items, or armor reduction is way weaker right now. So the meta is really about dealing a lot of damage before the enemy. Fights tend to last a bit shorter. Does not mean we cannot sustain, but it is better to sustain later. After this, after Tesla, our farming cycle is complete, right? We have our Cultist Sacrifice that we can use on camps whenever. We have our Tesla, which lets us farm creep camps insanely fast anyways. And because we are also running Cultist, creep camps die even faster because we're doing 35% bonus weapon damage. Which also means you can clear waves insanely. Fast here too, right? If you want to push a wave with Tesla and Cultist, you clear everything insanely fast, is my point. Pretty low net worth still, right? 10k, right? It's like barely mid-game, I would say. But I'll show you real quick how fast you can kill a camp with this, right? We pop full auto. And, I mean, things die, right? Things die. It is fast enough to clear tier 3 camps reasonably fast. But this is only going to go higher once we get to Mercurial, which we go next. And we put this, it's an upgrade to quickstart reload. You have to reselect the cards. Now what happens is we do 50% of each bullet that we would usually do is extra. So we do 50% more bullet damage every time we use our cards, which is always. So this item for 4,800, because it's an upgrade, gives us 52% bullet damage at this point, 30% fire rate, and 60 damage extra on each card. And it lets you reload your bullets. And the way this works is it's diminishing. The longer you don't shoot, the more you reload, up to 100%. But what that means in the fight is, and I'll show you real quick, once we let's level up to 16k, which we are now, you can start the fight off and you shoot, pop your full auto, and you throw your cards, and look at my ammo. We can do this as long as you hit your shots. You can shoot for a very long time until you have to reload. And the damage this does is insane. So if you want to see the DPS, this is the highest DPS Wraith has ever had this early in the game. You pop full auto, you shoot the head, and you're at like 1000 DPS, basically, while spamming cards, even without it. And you can shoot for a long time, and this is like mostly body shots. At this point, we start worrying about survivability. We don't really need it that much, because again, meta is if I kill you first, I'm fine, right? And we have telekinesis. So if you go into any fight and you lift them, they will die before they can even do anything. But we go Enchanter's Emblem, which is a hybrid, a really good item. It's a mix between the old Spirit Armor and the old Enchanter's Barrier. So as long as you have above 65% health, you have bonus Spirit Power, bonus cooldown reduction, and you have a flat 18 Spirit Resist. So this is really, really strong, works really well in this build, and it also starts us off in Vitality items, gives us a nice 10% extra HP overall flat. And then we go Escalating Resilience, which is gonna give us 30% bullet resist. And they changed the values a bit. It gives us more health, more weapon damage, and more ammo, which means you will never have to reload at this point. And then we're coming back to the absolute classic Surge of Power. I should put this in the build right now, actually. This might seem weird to you. For the last 5 Surge of Power builds I've done, I've always put it on the 3, on the full auto. And the reason we're putting this on the cards is we're gonna throw as many cards as possible, because every card we throw, we get ammo back, right? And every card we throw, we keep the buff up that allows us to do more damage with the Mercurial Magnum. You can also, now you might say, you can also keep on shooting and only throw a card if your magazine is absolutely empty, but you really want to start the fight by throwing a card because you want this bonus base damage, bullet damage of Mercurial Magnum active right away, right? And at that point, basically, you used up the 100% reload from Quicksale Reload, right? So at that point, you want to throw more cards to get those diminishing returns, which means we want to spam cards. But there's also another reason we're running Surge again. It gives us another level up on Spirit investment. To now we are now at base 35 extra Spirit because we spent at least 10k on purple items. So this is double value. It gives us more damage on cards, which are actually good again. You can also put this on a 3 if you still like it. I just did it testing. The damage is about the same, but because you keep on throwing cards, Surge is going to be active every 8 seconds, right? Whereas if you use it on on full auto, it's only going to be active once in a fight, the Surge, right? The bonus fire rate you get from Surge and the movement speed that is active for 6 seconds, only going to be active once because full auto has a really long cooldown, whereas cards don't. And Surge did get nerfed a bit, right? The imbued spirit power it gives you is lower. But again, because it gives us overall spirit power, we're happy with it. And it just works really well on cards. And the build at this point is done. And notice how we don't even need a flex slot. We don't need one. And now everything else is just a cherry on top. Let's get into healing. Boundless Spirit got completely changed. At this point, you should have a flex slot, by the way. Boundless Spirit is only 6.4k. So you can very easily, if you have slots to fill, you can still buy extra spirit or improved spirit early because it still builds out of it. But you buy this, now it only gives 40 spirit power, but it gives you 100 healing every time you cast an ability. You don't even have to hit it. Now think about the game of Deadlock. Which heroes have the most abilities to cast? Geist, Malice, and Wraith cards, right? That's about it. Mirage also counts because Mirage Scarabs is 4 Scarabs, so it heals you 4 times. So it's also really good on Mirage. But this item is probably OP and will probably get nerfed, just like Mercurial. So abuse this while you can. So this is our new way of healing. Because we're already throwing cards and we want more spirit. Remember spirit in this build. It ups our damage on full auto. It ups our damage on cards. But it also ups our gun damage now because Mercurial, the bonus, scales with gun damage. So right now we're at 68%. And once we get to Boundless, now we're at 98. We just, basically because we bought Boundless, we have another 40% increased bullet damage in spirit form. Okay? So this item is insane. 40% increase for Mercurial, then an increase to full auto scaling. In fact, we can look at it right now. It scales from 12 per bullet to 17 per bullet, so 5 on that, and the cards do another 40 damage extra per card. Okay, so this item works with everything in this build, and it heals you. And then we go Healing Booster, which increases the effectiveness of our healing by 25%, which means every time we throw a card, we now get 125 health back. And now you can combine this with full auto, which also gives us bullet and spirit lifesteal. Okay, and what this would look like at this point, we had 30k. which, for the record, it's easier to get money. The money is easier to get around with the new patch. Creeps are worth a bit more, and overall it just feels like you have more money early. So this is not an unreasonable amount of money to have, but this is everything you need. At this point, we're leveling cards to max. This is the next step, this is the change. We're skipping the teleport upgrade, and we're skipping the maximum ult until we level up cards. Because we really want to make sure, in this build in specific, we really want to make sure we always have a card when we want to throw it. Also, a lot of people seem to counter this build with Metal Skin. And they can't counter it with Metal Skin because you can keep on shooting them and you get cards back over and over. And because your cards do so much damage, because you have Boundless and Surge of Power on the cards, they die through Metal Skin. But that's why we're leveling up cards, the max, before we go and level up our teleport and then our ultimate, okay? So we max out full auto first, and then we max out cards, because this guarantees that even if we miss a few shots, we'll always have cards up to throw whenever we want. And we want to keep on throwing those cards while shooting. At this point, I can show you the lifesteal. We have not a single lifesteal item in this build, right? We don't have bullet lifesteal or spirit lifesteal. All we have is our full auto lifesteal and our healing on cards. And I'll go down to 1 health here, and we'll throw some cards. And that is our lifesteal in this build. Now, it could be countered with anti-heal. Anti-heal is still in the game. It did get nerfed a bit. Again, I wouldn't even look at Boundless as a healing item. It's more so that it makes everything do more damage than we already have, while also giving us a bonus heal, right? Also gives us, I forgot about this completely. As long as we throw cards, we also have 2 meters a second increased movement speed. So at this point, what happens is we get movement speed from Surge of Power, right? We get movement speed from Boundless. So we can run around at Mach 5 while throwing cards. You can kite in, kite out, and notice how I don't have to reload, ever, right? I mean, eventually I'll have to, right? Eventually I'll have to. But if you do this well and you keep on hitting your shots, you are more than good. And this is why... Sorry, the in-game sound is really loud. And this is why we don't need any ammo. We don't need Titanium Magazine, we don't need Intensifying Magazine, because we just have so much. And this is where I go for Toxic Bullets. If you need a flex at that point, you can sell the extra charge. It's just like early on, it's harder to build the card charge because we have it on max now. It's easy to get it, right? Even if we don't have any cards, we get the cards back really fast anyways. So we don't need extra charge anymore. We go Toxic, which will is our main way of anti-healing in this build. You could also go Healbane if you want. I found Toxic Bullets to work better with this build because it's so easy to apply on Wraith with a high fire rate.
You wanna buy a mug to go with your gun?
And then we have a few upgrades here, which again don't need slots, that are insane. And that is also the beauty of this build. We don't need all flex slots, and realistically all flex slots are pretty hard to get in an average game. Until the very late game, obviously. So you really need to make every slot worth it, right? And notice how every slot here does something really great for us, right? Capacitor is an upgrade to our Tesla. What it does is, we only spend 3.2 because it's an upgrade to Tesla. It's a 6k item, but we spent half. And it is a skill shot that does 200 spirit damage and slows the enemy to a maximum. Minus 100. There is a limit to how much you can slow them, so they're still gonna walk around a bit. So this is what it looks like. It slows them, does damage to them, but more importantly, it removes every single non-ultimate buff the enemy has, okay? Which means you can remove something like a Viscous Cube, okay? So if you have an enemy Viscous and he's cubing anyone, you shoot this and he's out of cube immediately. This also works great against a 7. When 7 uses Power Surge, right? That's his main damage. You shoot it, he loses Power Surge. It is a skill shot, so it's kinda... You can miss it, but ideally what I do is I initiate the fight, right? Lift them, and I try to hit it as soon as they land on the floor on the lift, which is like a pretty easy setup, right? So I go in, fight, lift, and I wait until they're stunned, and then I hit it, the skill shot, and then whatever they have on them that gives them buffs is gone, right? Warden, Overshield, any barrier Overshield for that matter. Any barrier is removed instantly. Divine Barrier is removed from Pocket if you ult. It's not the ult itself, right? Divine Barrier is removed. Viscous Cube. You can shoot it at Vindicta or Great Talon. in flight and they will lose flight. You can shoot it at a Eternus running away in flame dash and they will stop dashing. It's only a 3.2 upgrade, right? Which is what makes it so good. Another thing that is really good, and I tend to buy this actually even earlier than Capacitor in most cases now, is Healing Tempo. And Healing Tempo is a new upgrade to Healing Booster. We already have Healing Booster to up our healing on Boundless. What this does is, it makes our healing effectiveness even greater. So we get even more healing. So we now get 130 for each card we throw, or any ability we use for that matter. Also, nice side effect, it also ups our lifesteal percentage on our full auto. Right? So now we are at 90% lifesteal on both. The main thing is, as long as you apply healing to yourself, right, which is the main thing, you have 40% bonus fire rate, and you have another 1.5 meter movement speed. Okay? Which means this is always active. You have more healing and 40% extra fire rate and movement speed at all times. As long as you throw cards, it lasts for 7 seconds. So as long as you throw any card or use any ability within 7 seconds, you will have this active. Yeah, at that point you're just shredding. I buy this if I don't have a flex slot. Otherwise, I buy either Ricochet, okay, or I buy Unstoppable. There's a lot of stun in the game right now, and the meta is... Unstoppable seems to be even more valuable now, because Debuff Remover got nerfed quite a bit. E-Shift is really bad, right? There is this new item that I also have in Situational, Counter Spell. I'm shit at parrying, but I'm practicing. This can technically parry any ability in the game, so this is also a great item to have defensively. But yeah, Unstoppable is something I buy a lot. If you like this, I think is really good too for single target damage. Spellslinger is a new item. What this does is, as long as you cast an ability, you gain 6 stacks of fire rate and reload time, okay? And because you're casting basically all your abilities instantly, you basically have 60% faster reload and 60% faster fire rate, another 60% fire rate. So at this point, you're gonna empty your magazine really quick, but you have 2k DPS, and look at the reload speed. That was the reload. So look at the reload speed again. It's so fast. And again, as long as you spam cards, you don't really need to, you know. Yeah, the reload speed is insanely fast. So for a single target, this is insane. And the other option is Ricochet. Ricochet is really strong now. It got buffed. It has 25% increased fire rate now, which is really high value, by the way. That's the second highest fire rate of any gun item other than burst fire. So Ricochet base gives us 25% fire rate. And it applies all our bullet procs, which means it applies Mercurial. Okay, so all the bonus damage I do with Mercurial and all the bonus damage I do with full auto does work with Ricochet. So if the enemy team ends up clumped together a lot, this is an insane item now. Ricochet is really high value. You know, all they needed to do was up it a bit. It's really, really strong. And I'll just show you real quick how fast this camp dies. I mean, it's not gonna be impressive, but yeah, I wish it was a tier 3. I didn't even do it correctly, by the way. I didn't even throw a card. I'll do it again. I think you see the point. I think you get the point. And of course, at this point, we're mega farmed, right? So, Ricochet, if you need AoE damage and want to spread the pain to everyone. Healing Tempo if you don't have a flex slot. Capacitor if you want to shut down enemies like Viscous, Flyers, anything that really has a lot of buffs, right? Unstoppable if you get stunned a lot. Siphon if you want to be more survivable, because that's the one thing we don't really have other than the healing, right? We're not super tanky. And Spellslinger if you just need more single target damage. And in fact, I think Spellslinger is so good, I should actually put it in the main build. I should put it here. And I think I would go Spellslinger actually more often than Ricochet. So I'll put Ricochet behind this. But all these items are amazing. And that's how you play Wraith now. It's a spirit damage build that uses the gun. And you should abuse it while you can, because it's insanely strong. I'll talk about a few optional picks here. And I will preface this by saying I usually never get around buying these right now, because, again, I value the damage I have and the damage increase. If they die in 1 second, I don't need heal, right? And the only thing I really need to live that long enough to kill them is Unstoppable. But if you feel like you need armor, if the enemy does a lot of gun or bullet damage, right? There is a few new items like Spirit Resilience and Bullet Resilience. They're not really great. They give you 30% for 3.2k. And 60% I guess if you're low, but if you're that low, if you're 30% or below health, you're already basically dead, right? So I think these are bad items. So what I would recommend is if the enemy has a lot of debuffs and spirit damage, Spellbreaker is great. It's a big investment, but it reduces 75% of a big spirit attack towards you while giving you spirit resist and debuff resist. Plated armor is insane against bullet damage because it literally stops 30% of the time the bullets will do no damage, and 60% of the time the effects the bullets do will do nothing. So effects means haste fixation won't apply, power surge of 7 won't apply, full auto of Wraith won't apply, right? So this is a really good item, but more so a tank item, and I really think you play Wraith more like a glass cannon right now. Curse, self-explanatory, right? If you really want to shut down one target in specific. Armor piercing rounds is being bought sometimes. So this makes it so 65% of the time, no resist the enemy has will counter your bullets. They will do full damage. This is great against Viscous Ball and anything that has innately a lot of bullet armor, like Moan Krill Burrowed, for example, or if the enemy just builds a lot of bullet armor, you buy armor piercing rounds. Against tanky targets, this is a great choice. Spirit Burn is the best anti-heal in the game. It's very expensive, but if you deal enough spirit damage, basically, it reduces the healing of the enemies by 80%, and it does damage over time in an AoE. So this is like a late game. This is the best anti-heal, but it's like more a late game thing because it's not gonna up your inherent damage, and you really want inherent damage on, like you want intrinsic damage to your bullets on Wraith. And then Blood Tribute, if you need debuff resist, actually a great choice late game, because what this does is you can trigger it on and off, and it gives you debuff resist, fire rate, but it drains life. But because you're so tanky late, and you have so much life steal,
Death comes in many forms.
it goes down so quickly, right, that you won't really notice it anymore late game. I thought this is good. Counter spell again, I explained it already, and debuff remover is still situationally good. And that's enough yapping, I think. I'll also make a video about my Warden build. Both my Wraith and my Warden build are already public, and by the time you're watching this, my 7th build too probably for the new patch. I really think this is the best Wraith build in the game. Luckily, I think most of you guys did agree, because I think this build is currently rank 1 on the leaderboards, which I thank you for. Thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed. Try it out. Depending on when you're watching this, new stuff might have been figured out. I just wanted to make a video early, because what's not cooler than having a new patch and you have the best build in the game. Alright, until next time. See you, friends. Bye-bye.